All right, well, let's jump into this first story. Let's talk about some authoritarianism.
Yeah.
From Timcast, breaking, Steve Bannon says at least 35 Trump allies had their homes raided by the FBI on Thursday. He was speaking with Charlie Kirk. Harmeet Dillon came out and said, can confirm this happened to many Trump allies I know as well. So I'm wondering if it's actually more than 35. The quote here is, there were 35 raids last night, Bannon said. And there's another grand jury coming together on January 6th. The Washington Post reported it. 35 senior members of MAGA, Republicans, supporters of Donald Trump, that the FBI rolled in on. So I'm wondering, Biden comes out and he says MAGA Republicans are an extreme threat. Mm-hmm. A lot of us were like, oh, that's their campaign strategy, right? I'm wondering if it's more than that. That they want to prime the American people, say it enough, get enough of their bots and garbage corporate press to agree.
Right.
That way, when they start arresting people, they'll say, oh, but you guys know how bad it is, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's hard to say for sure, right, exactly what that was. And it certainly, could be, okay, this is a campaign video and this is the play, right? The play for the midterm elections. Well, he can't claim to be a unifier or any of this stuff anymore. He can't really run on any of his policies. So basically what's his only play left is to gin up his own base by saying, hey, the other side is so evil, to get out the votes for Democrats. Kind of a desperate attempt. But I got to say, and this is what I was talking about the other day when that speech was given on my podcast, Part of the Problem, that I was saying, look, this really reminded me of like a George W. Bush 2002 speech. It had everything from the creepy red backdrop, the military members like right behind him. This was like, it seemed like a war drum speech. Mm-hmm. Like if you remember, 9/11 happened in September 2001. We invade Iraq in 2003, but the whole year of 2002 was this slow, beating the war drums, pushing the war propaganda about what Saddam Hussein is doing. And it did have that feel to it. I think that, look, let's just call it what it is. Donald Trump for 4 years was framed for treason by his own deep state, by his own intelligence apparatus. Now, that is kind of a real thing. That's something pretty interesting, that you have the CIA and the FBI and the NSA working to oust a democratically elected president.
With help from the corporate press.
Right. Oh, yes, with help from the corporate press, from social media, from big tech, from the, both parties as well. So now what you're really seeing is that it has definitely been deemed unacceptable to the establishment for Donald Trump to be reelected. I mean, not reelected, elected again, whatever you want to call it. Think about that. What a devastating blow that would be for their narrative. And I think that after the FBI raid in Mar-a-Lago, they went big. I don't think they can do that and not follow this up with something big. They can't just raid a former president's house and then say, all right, we didn't find anything, it's nothing. Okay. They got to go for it now. So this is, again, if Bannon is telling the truth and this is what happened, this is another major escalation in that step.
Bannon's not the kind of guy to hoax like this. No. And Harmeet Dillon's a lawyer. She's not this hyper partisan. I mean, she's obviously, partisan in a certain sense, but she's a lawyer coming out saying can confirm this happened. I take it seriously.
The thing I think that the general public should actually look when they see this. Okay, cool. You don't like Trump. You love Trump. Whatever thing you fall in that space. I think the thing that the general public should really be thinking about is these are the weaponization of entire intelligence communities to go after presidents and to slow somebody up for their, okay, I'm going to go in again in 2004. Right? So if they're doing that to someone and that's their political opposition that has resources, that has access, that has all of these other different things, the general public should be thinking more so about, do you want to vote for a guy come in a few years? Do you want to vote for a party? Do you want to vote for a system or a group that has consistently shown you? Because it's not just on the left. They're just the guys in charge, the Democrats now. And they're unhinged with it. Like that whole Mar-a-Lago thing, Adrian Norman really, he posted on his Twitter page, it's like right here, it's saying this was sent by Biden.
Yeah.
Clearing, whatever.
Well, so this is, just to clarify, this one's interesting. Biden in May requested what the documents they thought Trump had were.
Yeah.
Then they go and raid Trump's Mar-a-Lago with the feds, a few months later. And so did Biden literally say, I want you to raid his house? Or did he go, oh, won't someone please get me these documents? and then wink, wink, nudge, nudge, the feds went and did it.
I think it's, again, like we were saying before camera, I'm past the point of believing that this is incompetence.
Agreed.
It's too strategic. You know, the sun rises, and if you're, depending on your location, the sun's right there. At this time, the sun's going to be here. That is an organized phenomenon. It's too many oopses, and because we're looking at Biden as this, you know, the old dude that's struggling with dementia. And we kind of like, that might be the drunken monkey. Like, I'm not above, this is a very intricate movie.
We made this joke before that Biden bumbles and fumbles off stage, and then as soon as he's behind the curtain, he stands up
the
straight.
Evil.
And he goes, all right, did they buy it?
Right.
Now let's go blow up some kids in the Middle East.
Right.
Well, but I also think like whether how much of it went up to Joe Biden and how aware he was, it's almost irrelevant at a certain point. I mean, we know it went to Merrick Garland, right? So he already said in his own press conference that this was his decision. So it went to very high places. I don't know if that's, at that point, who really cares whether it was the president or just his attorney general, you know? Like,
his teammate.
I think what's important too to recognize with this is that it's not even like really a left versus right thing. This is a power versus non-power thing. This is an establishment, anti-establishment thing. I mean, think about the way someone I disagree with on a ton of things, but think about the way the establishment turned against Bernie Sanders. You know, in 2016, really rigging the entire election against him in the Democratic primary. Think about the way in 2020, when he was looking very good against Joe Biden, they were on MSNBC and CNN calling his supporters brown shirts and Nazis. What do you think the system would do if Bernie Sanders had been elected president?
But I want to clarify that. They mounted a procedural effort against Bernie Sanders. Like, questions were being given to Hillary Clinton in advance by CNN. In 2020, they had the 3 moderates drop out and all endorse Joe Biden at the same time. So it's this back
and Elizabeth Warren stay in.
Right.
They had her stay in. So the one who was splitting votes from him stays in. All the ones who were splitting votes from Joe Biden get out and endorse Biden.
So it's this like, they flex and bend the system so everything always skews in their favor in those ways.
And what happened, and they did that with Trump too, but it didn't work. For once, it didn't work, and that guy got in. And so it's just the thing that should be eye-opening to regular people is that you go, look, if ever you supported a candidate from the left-wing perspective who deviated from the establishment too much, they would crack down on him in the same way. And the thing that the Trump supporters should be questioning about how much loyalty you have to Donald Trump going forward is just like, Donald Trump appointed Wray to the head of the FBI. He is the guy. Well, you know, if his mission, his stated mission, was to drain the swamp, well, man, he got drained by that swamp.
He hired Bolton.
Right.
Like,
Bolton.
everybody went, bleh.
Dude, Bolton, Pompeo, Barr, you know, Wray, all of these guys, his entire team. Like, he had no clue who to trust and who not to trust, and he got rolled by all of them. Fauci, he kept Fauci on the job through all of 2020.
I cannot believe that that's incompetence. I do not believe that that's incompetence. And again, my job is to look at the general public and saying, hey, this looks fishy. And if you see it from the left or the right or whatever, if this looks fishy, is this where you want to put your energy locally, state, or federally? Do you want to get behind those types of things again? Because it's walking like a duck, bro. It's been walking like a duck, looking like a duck for however long.
But look, this is what we're seeing right now. If the 35 raids on Trump allies, we're watching a revolution happen. We are watching a political faction with control of law enforcement, using it to crush political opposition. Historically, when you see things like this happen, it's typically how you end up with a uniparty system. Now, I think for the most part, the Democrats and the Republicans for a long time have been the uniparty as it was, with this fake, this false adversary. Right. But Donald Trump storms the gates. Trump supporters, Bernie Sanders supporters tried storming the gates too. Bernie was too nice of a guy, I guess. He was too weak. He couldn't get in that ivory tower. Bernie Sanders walks up to the ivory tower with a bunch of these lefties, shake their fist. They say, let us in. And they spit on him, and then he apologizes. Donald Trump, they came with a battering ram. Then they bring in the big orange bull who just rampages about. They want to regain control of the establishment. This is how they're trying to do it, by purging and arresting all of their opposition. Let me tell you real quick just how scary it gets. They're going after Trump supporters. They're going after Trump people. They're not going after Republicans, because the Republicans are going to be the establishment. But I'll tell you what happened when I was in Egypt when they had the second revolution, they realized that the political split between the more secular type Egyptians and the Muslim Brotherhood was too great. And there was only one solution. And you know what they did? Do you know what the military decided to do to stop the constant revolutions? They had a revolution again. They just went and started killing the Muslim Brotherhood. Mm-hmm. They just went out, started arresting, started firing guns at, and just attacking their protests. Now, it's not that bad. They're not going out and just killing Trump supporters, but it's because we're in a different degree of warfare. That's third generational. Now we're in fifth. They're using the power of law enforcement to make sure Trump's people can't assist him and that his ideas and his leadership are gone.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting when you say we're in a revolution, and you could really think about in the history of the United States of America, like we have kind of this idea that we've had one regime since 1776, but really there's been many revolutions along the way. I mean, we had a revolution where we overthrew the Articles of Confederation and installed the Constitution. We certainly had a revolution with Abraham Lincoln where we fought a civil war. I think you could argue that FDR kind of was a revolution. Well, my point would be here, the revolution was 2020. The revolution isn't 2022. The revolution was having the lockdown regime, having what bordered on a color-coded revolution with these kind of like very, let's say, sponsored mass rioting and protesting in the streets. I mean, this is right out of the playbook of what we do in other countries. And so this is the follow-up to that. Yeah.
The 529 insurrection. When they went to the White House, ripped down the barricades, injured dozens of federal agents, set fire to a guard post, set fire to a church, and forced the president into a bunker.
Yeah. And no one talks about that.
Right.
It's very interesting. But this is the follow-up to that. Like if this big push was made, you could look at that Time magazine piece about how they stole the election from Donald Trump. If this big push was made to get Trump out and put Joe Biden in, well, this is now the follow-up to that. Now, this is usually after a revolution, you have this period where then you have to crack down on the dissidents to make sure that the power that you took is contained.
It's all part of the revolutionary process. You mentioned the Civil War. A civil war happens when factions fight each other and neither side can just take it. Right. What we're watching now is, I don't know. I don't care if it's Democrats. It is the elite, and they're using, and it mostly is Democrats, and there are some former Republican neocon types, but what we're seeing is still the revolutionary period. So if in November Republicans win, then the revolution is not complete. If in 2024 Trump wins, then the revolution
failed, right, to some degree.
But sitting here watching, I can't believe that we have a story that 35 senior Trump people were raided by feds. Like that is such a dramatic escalation.
I think they're doing what's going to come out of this is the Streisand effect. They're doing something. They're thinking about we got to keep Trump out. They're not thinking about the general public watching, going, you guys are shitty. They're doing a lot of the heavy lifting for us. And I don't mean that in a good way, like, oh, great, yeah, raid more, MAGA extremists, so-called, and then the people will wake up. But that's kind of like, in a weird way, what's happening. The general public, how many times are y'all hearing guys that may have voted for Biden? And they fought you tooth and nail in 20 whatever, right? 19. Yeah, this is blah, 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 blah. Now, after a year and a half, 2 years, they're like, bro, I don't really. They may not be willing to say, yeah, I'm going this way completely, but they're also going like, nah, something's wrong here. I don't even like how this feels. Economically, they're doing something, this massive overcorrection that the general public is, I think for me, I don't think that anybody's just going, yeah, we're going Biden. And I don't think that they're going, we're rating these people and people aren't seeing. I think it would work if it was more clandestine.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.